France has been going through a lot of what I would say is deserved in many ways. What it did, however, is that it ended up having this extremely toxic kind of paternal relationship, where to this day you still see France was the last country, for example, to still have military bases post-colonial in West African countries. Permanent, actually. France was also, the Francophone countries in West Africa still have their currencies that are tied to the franc. Well, we don't, right? We are pegged to the dollar. And I can go on and on and on. It's almost like nothing happens before they ask, you know, their parents, like, is it okay if we do this? And I think it's a good time that West Africa kind of cuts off this ties, because as a development expert, I can tell you that this has really held them behind. Tying your currency to the franc instead of tying it to the dollar, not being able to compete, having this permanent military bases. And so I think it came at a time where there was a lot of backlash going on in West Africa, and France was looking for a new friend. And that's where Kenya then came in. Okay. So I think we can discuss further what that means for Kenya, but it's important for Kenya to appreciate why they have left their first wives, and now we're being courted to be, you know, the second young wives.
France never left Africa. It's been around for a while. And what is happening, I think, there are diverse, of course, perspectives to this. There are those optimists who will look at it as a renewed French influence in Africa, new goodies for a number of countries that are signing bilateral agreements with France. But really, France is trying to reassert itself in a world where Africa has become increasingly relevant, probably more than any other region in the world. It is taking its claim to a continent that, as I said somewhere yesterday, that is going through what I see as a second scramble for Africa. Okay. And the question we are asking is whether this scramble for Africa too will be actually different from the Scramble for Africa I, which happened during the Berlin Conference of 1884-85. But indications are that if France is going to pursue its policy as it has always done, defense agreements, as you earlier communicated, trying to extend its influence to pursue its interests in a continent where we have more or less become a big military base for powerful countries around the world.
There is a concept in French philosophy. It's called a mission servilatrice. Right. This is a very pernicious system, a way in which African men and women were to evolve, and it's called évoluer, into proper French men and proper French women. The British system, nonetheless, is equal in barbarism to the one of the French. But the French had a little bit of a extension of this viciousness that we have all experienced here in this continent, that they wanted to tell us that there was no such thing as an Afrocentrism or an African philosophy or cosmology, that everybody was French. That is the question that we have to ask ourselves, is whether when there is a president in a country that is in Africa or in the global south that is working with the European metropole in an exploitative way, is it legitimate for that administration to be overthrown? Because it is doing the same thing that was being done directly by the metropole. Lastly, I want to add even a more much more existential thing. You know, in 2019, the French president came here for his first historic trip, and he signed a slew of documents in which the Uhuru government, which was 50-50 with the President Ruto now. There was a cohabitation. It was not a presidency of only Uhuru. And nobody knows where those deals have gone. These deals that have come here that are called instruments, right? To the tune of, say, $1 billion, and they're investing about 20 billion in all of Africa, is something that we know is a coup d'etat of our principles of open and transparent negotiations between countries in Western Europe or the United States, because we know that those previous documents and those previous signatures, nothing has happened in the last 5 to 6 to 7 8 years, because those investments have not come in, or if they have come in, they have been under the cloud of corruption. So I put it to you, Ayub, that it is the West Africans who have given us an experience. If we are to judge the French Republic in all honesty and all fairness, we have to ask ourselves, where did they come from and what have they done there? Okay. And what they have done in West Africa. Yeah. The entire population of West Africa has said no.
It's often said that if you don't know where you're coming from, it's very most likely that you don't even know where you're going. And the anti-historic, sentiments within our system are directly responsible for the naivety we find ourselves in terms of dealing with France and the kind of PR, government that we are learning around this issue. And we'll stand judged by fellow Africans as to how we behaved at a certain time. I went to South Africa against the backdrop of the end of apartheid and a huge resentment of Kenya because of the role we played. Not us all, but a number of our elite
in supporting apartheid.
Jomo Kenyatta's government, who openly supported both Israel and apartheid in a very dramatic way, to the point that it was one of the many reasons why the East African community collapsed, because there were some certain countries in Africa which could not bear with us. Never mind that we are the ones who hosted the mothers and children of the apartheid fighters in the front right state, because they had to come to school in Kenya and seek medical attention in Kenya because we were more advanced. So that point didn't come out well. What came out well is that we were sympathizers with apartheid. Now, on our land, a French president claims that he is Pan-Africanist.
Scandal.
That is really playing around with our minds. We know, conceptually speaking, the concept that France has advanced over the last 2 or so centuries is something called Francafrique. Francafrique is the establishment of a territory over Africa. It is not about decolonization or all this nonsense we've been talking about. It's about tightening the grip on the African continent, the 29 countries that are supposed to be Francophone. What that meant is that whereas the British, the Portuguese, and a little bit the Spanish, Spaniards decided to decolonize or to set free their colonies and establish new forms of rules partnership, which we call neo-colonial. That's what Nkrumah called them.
True.
The French refused to let go. And Charles de Gaulle, or Charles de Gaulle, did not in any way have any contradiction in what he was saying. He said, if we let our colonies in Africa go, we will immediately become a third world. So for France to be a superpower, it needed to tighten its grip. And it did so ruthlessly up to 2025. In the year 2025. And it's now that after criticism, even from European countries like Italy, that it has decided to slightly loosen its grip on our African brothers. So what does that mean? Francafrique meant that all the resources that each of the 29 African countries produce, 50% of them are deposited in France. And the 50 that remains, you have to apply in order to get that money. In other words, to show costs what you're using. It was economic colonization